This is going to be a quick review of how to balance equations. This is from chapter 6 in your textbook. So what is a chemical equation? A chemical equation is a shorthand way of writing a chemical reaction, and reactants are always on the left, products are on the right. And I know this is just a quick review. You already know this. Remember that the arrow points to the products. All right, so how do we accomplish this? Accomplished by adding coefficients in front of the substances in the equation. Remember, you can change the coefficients, you never change a subscript. Tips for balancing equations. It's usually easiest if you start by balancing your metals first. Balance your nonmetals next, but leave hydrogen and oxygen for the last. If polyatomic ions are conserved in the reaction, try balancing them as a unit. This is something we didn't really do last year much, but something that it's easier to apply and it's easy to do with the larger equations that we're going to deal with. And balance any remaining hydrogens and oxygens very, very last. All right, so let's look at this one as an example and notice that we're going to only change the coefficients. That's why we have the blanks there. And last year I told you write all this in ink and you never go back and never change it, and only change your coefficients. Use pencil for that. And like last year, we started by making sure there was conservation of the elements by writing down all the different ones on the left-hand side and making sure they all show up on the right-hand side, which is important because if they don't, then you got a problem and you're never going to balance the equation anyway. So we have same elements on both sides. Now we start by writing down how many we have of each. Do the same thing on the right-hand side. And so you look at it and say, is it balanced? And it's not balanced. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at our metals. So our metals are balanced. Sodium 1, sodium 1, beryllium 1, beryllium 1. So let's go to our nonmetals, and we notice that we don't have enough chlorine on the left-hand side, so we can start by putting the coefficient 2 out there on the side. Changes that chlorine number to 2, but it also changes our sodium. So let's go ahead and take care of making sure that our sodium remain balanced. And by doing that, we in turn also balance our fluorine. So our coefficients would be 2, 1, 2, 1. Look at the next balanced reaction. This one has some polyatomic ions in it. So we're going to treat them as a unit to kind of look and see how we can make this easier for us to balance this time. Starting off with our elements. And by the polyatomic ion being conserved, what I mean is if you look on the left-hand side and the phosphate ion is there, and you also see the phosphate ion on the right-hand side, so the ion itself is not changed. So we're going to look at that as, I'm sorry, let's erase that and fix it real quick. We're going to look at the phosphate ion as an entire entity. Okay, so same thing on this side. We have iron, that's good. We have chlorine as well. We have beryllium, and we have phosphate. So we have 1, 3, 3, 2. Over here we have 1, 2, 1, 1. All right, so let's take a minute and kind of reassess the situation while I clean up this board because I apparently can't write. There we go. So I look at our metals first, and Fe and Fe, we have the right number of those. Beryllium, we don't. So let's start by putting a 3 out in front here on the right-hand side, changing the coefficient for beryllium and also changing the number, the coefficient and the number of chlorine to 6 because remember it's subscript times coefficient. So I look back over here and let's look at chlorine. Chlorine has 3, we have 6 over here, so if I put a 2 in front of the FeCl3, that's going to change the chlorine to 6. That's also going to change the iron to 2. So let's go over here and put a 2 in front of this iron and up that to 2, and that also changes the number of entire phosphates that we have to 2, and it's balanced. And one other thing I want to bring out before you have some practice problems to work on is that if you don't get equal numbers and you don't get it to balance, it's because you haven't completed it. You haven't tried hard enough to complete it. So that's the challenge that you have, is to balance the equations and don't give up on them. And if you have something that just continually keeps coming out wrong, just start all over. Rewrite the equation out again and start fresh with fresh eyes. Maybe even do a couple of the problems before it or after it that help build your confidence again, and then go back to the one you're having trouble with. Just don't give up.